обители трех времен, праздня Парамити, ни речью, ни мыслью невыразимой, нерожденной, непрекращаемой таговости пространства, объектов практики, различающей самопознающей мудрости. Такую речь я слышал однажды. Бхагаван пребывал на горе Критхагода вместе с великой общиной монахов и великой общиной бодхисаттв. В то время Бхагаван погрузился в самадхи, перечень дхарм, именуемое глубинное видение, и в то же время бодхисаттва Махасаттва Арья Авалокитешвара, созерцая практику глубины праздня Парамиды, узрел и 5 сканг самосущностно пустыми. Мой Будды, достопочтенный Шарипутра, обратился к бодхисаттве Махасаттве Арья Авалокитешваре с таким вопросом: как должно упражняться тем благородным сыновьям, которые желают воплощать практику глубины праздня Парамиды? Так он вопрошал. И бодхисаттва Махасаттва Арья Авалокитешвара ответил достопочтенному сыну Шарадвати такими словами: Шарипутра, те благородные сыновья и благородные дочери, которые желают воплощать практику глубины праздня Парамиды, должны исследовать таким же образом и эти 5 сканг, исследовательно видеть их самосущностно пустыми. Форма – пустота, пустотность – форма, пустотность не отлична от формы, а форма не отлична от пустотности. Также пустые чувства и понятия, и Созидатель, и сознание. Шарипутра, таким образом все дхармы пусты, не имеют характеристик, не рождены и не прекращаемы, не загрязнены и не очищены, не ущербны и не полны. Шарипутра, поэтому в пустотности нет формы, нет чувства, нет понятия, нет Созидателя, нет сознания, нет глаза, нет уха, нет носа, нет языка, нет тела, нет ума, нет видимой формы, нет звука, нет запаха, нет вкуса, нет осязаемого, нет дхарм, нет элементов. Начиная с элемента глаза, до элемента ума и до элемента сознания ума. Нет неведения, нет прекращения неведения. И далее до того, что нет также старости смерти, и нет прекращения старости смерти. Также нет страдания, источника, пресечения, пути, нет мудрости, нет обретения и нет необретения. Поэтому Шарипутра, бодхисаттва достижения пребывает в этой глубине праздня Парамити, без загрязнений и страха в душе, полностью уйдя от превратности, достигает края ухода от скорби. Все Будды, пребывающие в 3 временах, истинно совершенном, подлинном совершенном Бодхи, опирается на праздня Парамиду. И поэтому мантра праздня Парамиды, мантра великого ведения, бесподобная мантра, мантра, уравнивающая с несравненным, мантра, полностью тихомиривающая страдания, не важна, потому что знает, что истина. Мантра праздня Парамиды произносится так: Тадьята, Ом Гаде Гаде Пара Гаде Парасам Гаде Бодхисаттва. Шарипутра вот таким образом изучает глубинную праджнапарамиду. Затем Бхагаван, выйдя из того самадхи, выразил одобрение бодхисаттве Махасаттве Арья Авалокитешваре, сказав: «Прекрасно, прекрасно, благородный сын, это именно так, благородный сын, это именно так». Показано, так и должно практиковать глубинную праджнапарамиду. И Тхагатри возрадуется, когда изрек Бхагаван такую речь, то достопочтенный Шарипутра, бодхисаттва Махасаттва Арья Авалокитешвара, то все полное окружение, а также боги, люди, асуры, гандхарвы, все вместе возликовали и воздали учению Бхагавана. Закончена Махаянская сутра, называемая сердце Бхагавати Парамиты.
Оя. 大都是这些原因， So I'd like to thank you. So today I'm giving teaching to the Russian Buddhists, including the Russian Buddhist federations, and today is the second day of the teaching to you. So the teaching that you have requested was the transmission of the ornament of the Mahayana Sutras. So it's a long text, and though I have received the transmission myself, will not be able to finish this transmission anyway. And so I'll do an introductory teaching on Buddhism, and then the all-encompassing yoga mind, and then we'll follow that with question and answer session. So the Buddha himself, so the Buddha began his teaching by giving teaching on the Four Noble Truths, repeating it 3 times. First with regard to its nature, and then secondly the functionality, and then the results. So in this way the Buddha gave teaching on the Four Noble Truths, and this is a quite comprehensive teaching. So these Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, origin, cessation, and true cessation and true path. So after giving teaching on the nature of the Four Noble Truths, then the Buddha went on to say the suffering must be known or understood, and it's not just the painful experiences that we consider as suffering, but the main point here is to understand the deeper suffering, which is the universal or the all-encompassing conditioning, all-pervasive conditioning suffering. And therefore, we need to, after understanding and knowing what suffering is, you need to go into the origin of the suffering. And therefore, the Buddha went on to say the origin of the suffering must be overcome. So is it possible to do that? Yes, it is. So, though in the earlier part of our life we may be someone full of these destructive emotions such as hatred, anger, attachment, and so forth, but when you have realized these as being negative, and then you give thought to them, you can transform yourself so that you have less of these negative emotions. And so with regard to the practice of the problems of these that we experience, then we go into the understanding of the practice of the 3 trainings, and the beginning with the morality. And then when you go deeper, you go into the understanding of these 3 poisons. So these 3 poisons of attachment, anger, hatred, and ignorance something static and that cannot be changed? No, they are not. Because we can see how they change when you have the positive qualities like love and so forth. Then you can actually counter the anger, hatred, and so forth. And therefore, you can see there are these counteracting factors of the destructive emotions. And you can also understand that the negative emotions instinctually arise in us, but they do not have a good sound ground. So there's no good reason that you can give why you should have these negative emotions or mental afflictions. So they cannot stand the test of reason and so forth. But because of our habituation throughout the past lives, however, if you develop the counteracting factors, the antidotes to them, then you can reduce these mental afflictions. And so here the origin of suffering comprise the karma and the mental afflictions. And then comes the next one, which says the cessation must be actualized. So you need to really give deep thought to this. So what this shows is that the mental afflictions and the defilements, if you look at their nature and try to identify them, you will not be able to see them to have any kind of intrinsic nature. But because of our habituation throughout our lifetimes from the past, we have these mental afflictions and defilements. However, just the fact that there is an existence of mind does not necessarily entail the negative or mental afflictions. And so in the Tantras, it mentions the dissolution process of the coarser levels of mind or consciousness, and after the dissolution of the three visions of luminous increase, luminous appearance, increase, and near attainment, then there is the clear light of death. And then you can also go through the process of resolution at the time of sleep. So when you are able to actualize this innate, clear light, luminous mind in your sleep, also you can see these negative emotions or the defilements cannot stay in the mind. So however powerful these mental afflictions and defilements may be, they are not in the intrinsic nature of the mind itself. So, because of that, and then the mental afflictions are misconceptions or distorted states of mind, and that there is the powerful antidote to them. Because of these three reasons, we can understand that these stains or defilements are temporary, and we have the potential for these excellent qualities that we can develop. And so, by studying the texts such as Abhisamaya Alamkara and its commentaries and sub-commentaries, and also Madhyamaka texts, we can understand that these mental afflictions and defilements are temporary, and the mind itself is luminous or clear light. These are the verses from the 6th chapter of Madhyamaka Avatara, chapter 6, verse number 224. So of course it is not easy. So it says, it's not easy, but when you are able to familiarize yourself with the practices, then you'll be able to see the possibility of attaining true cessation, which is to say, a state whereby you have overcome these mental defilements. Of course, it is possible in general as a knowable object, and then you will be able to also see that it is able, you will be able to attain such a true cessation because of these defilements being temporary or adventitious, and that you will be able to actualize the true cessation within yourself. So, if that is possible, if it is possible that you will be able to attain true cessation by applying these antidotes to the defilements, so when you are able to see that ignorance, the root of all these mental afflictions, can be overcome, then you will be able to see, understand the statement where the Buddha goes on to say in regarding the Four Noble Truths, the path must be cultivated. So all religions teach love and compassion, and they are helpful to human beings. And in Buddhism, it does not just confine itself to prayers to the three jewels, but it teaches the means to the corrective measures to transform our mind. And so, the Indian tradition of Buddhism teaches how to actualize true cessation by overcoming the origin of suffering. And so you have the texts such as Mula Madhyamaka Karika, the verses, fundamental verses of the middle way, called wisdom, and so forth by Master Nagarjuna. And so through the teaching of the dependent arising, the Buddha does not teaches us not to remain in the two extremes. And so, when you understand dependent origination of things, you will be able to understand that things do not exist the way they appear to us, although they appear to us as if they have some objective independent existence. As quantum physics also says, that nothing whatever has any objective existence. So when you try to search for the identity of things in themselves, you will not be able to pinpoint anything as being this or that. And so, if you are able to give thought to these, you'll be able to see how things are dependently originated. And therefore, you'll be able to see that things do not have any independent existence, yet they exist by way of dependence. And so this is the tool to counter our ignorance, which... So in the 400 verses of the Aryadeva, it says, just as the physical faculty permeates all other faculties, sensory faculties, likewise, ignorance permeates all other mental afflictions. And therefore, when you are able to see dependent origination, you'll be able to counter this ignorance. And so this must be pronounced right in the beginning. And so, as the Heart Sutra mantra says, that yata gate gate, parasangate bodhi swaha, what you should understand is that you will be able to tread along the path referred by gate gate, parasangate, and then bodhi swaha means that you reach enlightenment. And so and then this is possible to do because of the understanding of emptiness. As the Heart Sutra says, form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, and form 2 is not other than form. Form 2 is not other than emptiness, sorry. And so, and then the Buddha went on with regard to the Four Noble Truths, the third repetition, which is to say, the suffering should be overcome, but there's nothing to be overcome. Nothing to be known. Origin must be overcome, but nothing to be overcome, and so forth. And so when you think along the principle of dependent origination of things, you'll be able to see that you yourself, though you appear to be someone governing or possessing the body, speech, and mind, but nothing whatever can be pinpointed as being that I. Where is that I now? Which supposedly, to which the three body, speech, and mind supposedly seem to be belong. And therefore, so the profound teaching of the profound emptiness is something that you can actually give thought to and also meditate upon, so that you develop the experience. So through which you'll be able to overcome this clinging to true existence in things and beings. So of course, all the religious traditions are good, but the Buddhism, the teaching of the Buddha, is based on logic and reason. And therefore, you have the writings of Master Nagarjuna, the fundamental verses of the middle way called wisdom, and Madhyamaka Avatara by Chandrakirti. So through these teachings, you'll be able to find conviction or confidence in the teaching of emptiness, and therefore they see the possibility that the paths and grounds can be possible, or are possible to attain within your mind stream. Represent these paths represented by the Heart Sutra mantra, Paragati, Gati, and so forth. And so once you have studied the teaching of the Buddha and then familiarized yourself with these path, then you'll be able to see that they are possible to be integrated within yourself. And so the suffering must be known, origin must be overcome, truth cessation must be actualized, and the path cultivated. So the teaching of the Buddha comes down to these, and it can be summarized in a way through this teaching of the Four Noble Truths. And so, what we need to do is pursue this teaching of the Buddha by doing study of it first, and then having listened to the teaching and studied it, then you should reflect on them, so that you develop a conviction and in the teaching, and that leads you to apply the teaching within yourself in meditation. So in this way, you have to go about with the teaching of the Buddha through the process of study, reflection, and meditation. And regarding myself, since my childhood, of course, I have gone through this triple process. So through this, I can see that it's very clear to me that there has been change in me over the last many decades since I started studying Buddhism. Therefore, to my Dharma brothers and sisters, I would like to appeal to you also to go through this process of study, reflection, and meditation, so that you'll be able to see the Buddha Dharma is something that you can actually have it in the palm of your hands. Clearly be able to see that it has the result that you expect. And so I wish to say this to my Russian Dharma friends. So Sutra Alamkara is very long, and so we will not be able to anyway finish the text. So this is what I have given is the essence of the teaching of the Buddha. So first we'll do the question and answer session now.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with us. The first question today is from the main Buddhist temple of Kalmykia, Golden Abode of Buddha Shakyamuni. It will be asked by Venerable Yonten Gelong, administrator of the temple, a member of the Civic Chamber of the Russian Federation.
В России ведется работа по созданию учебной программы высшего образования по специальности буддийская философия.
So, Your Holiness, the work is currently underway in Russia to create a higher education curriculum in the field of Buddhist philosophy. The difficulty is that the 4-year undergraduate program cannot include all the disciplines and topics taught in the Buddhist institutes in India, as many other disciplines must be included according to Russian higher education standards. Therefore, the main subject of Buddhism does not have much time, teaching time. Please give us advice on how to shorten the curriculum, which Buddhist disciplines must be included in the undergraduate program, and which can be left for study. Thank you. So this is very important. So when we studied Buddhism in our childhood, we began with the study of logic, the study of mind and awareness, and then also the study of reason and logic. So these two are like the opener of our intellects, the reasoning mind. So you should teach these two subjects. So it's not about religion as such, but the system of how the mind works. And so we have the taxonomy of mind, such as the 7 divisions and so forth, which are very good to understand. And then also the study of logic and reasoning, which do not have to be made religious study as such, but as an academic subject, just to open people's mind up to reason and logic. And so, if you could do that, teach logic, the study of mind and awareness, and when people begin to understand or take more interest in studying about mind, you can go into take the lesson further, and then through the logic, study of logic and reason, as I just explained about the Four Noble Truths, you can apply that to the teaching of the Four Noble Truths and understand them through logic. So as an academic subject, not religious one, maybe you can use these as part of the academic subject. So if you could teach them, perhaps it would be good. Next.
Your Holiness, the second question is from the Buddhist temple Gunzechune in St. Petersburg. It will be asked by the abbot of the temple, Buddha Badmayev.
In the third chapter of the
особенности принятия прибежища Махаяны. Расскажите, пожалуйста, о них. И в чем разница принятия прибежища в Theravada и Mahayana?
The chapter of Mahayana Sutra Alomkara says there are 4 features of going for refuge in the Mahayana. Could you please say a few words about that? And is there a difference between going for refuge in Theravada and Mahayana? So it says because of the 4 particular features by which they are classified: universality, focus, commitment, realization, overpowering, supremacy, those who fulfill and so forth. So by taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, by saying this line, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, but if you have done some study of the classic texts, you'll be able to understand what these universality and the commitment to attain that of the enlightenment and so forth mean. So it's very important to study them. So we may say, I go to refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, but what is Buddha and what is Dharma and what is Sangha? If you have done some study of the Dharma, you'll be able to have a different experience within yourself about what they mean. And so the most important thing is to study the Dharma. So as I usually say, the teaching of the Buddha could be used as an academic subject. And then once you have gained understanding of Dharma through reason, and then you'll be able to go further into the practice of the Dharma.
The next question is from Aginsky Datsan in Transbaikalia. It will be asked by Bator Dipchikov.
Good morning, Your Holiness. Your Holiness, how useful is it for us simple people to believe that we can achieve Buddhahood in one life? Thank you. So in the Perfection Vehicle teachings, it is not taught that one can become enlightened within one lifetime in one body. But in the Tantra teachings, and particularly the highest yoga Tantra, mentions about this possibility of becoming enlightened in one lifetime, in one body, or 3 years, 3 months, and so forth. But this has to do with a very particular or specific type of practitioner. But for generally, it is very difficult for people to become enlightened within one lifetime, one body. For example, in the case of Milarepa, who had gone through a very arduous practice, and so became enlightened through hardship, having gone through hardships. If you read his songs of the 100,000 songs, so he really worked very hard and attained the realizations gradually and not immediately. So the past Tibetan scholar adepts, amongst them, of course, there are life stories of such masters who are said to have attained Buddhahood within one lifetime. These sometimes could be in order to inspire the disciples to practice the Dharma seriously. So, but it is very difficult to attain Buddhahood within one lifetime, one body.
Next.
Okay.
Your Holiness, the next question is from the Center of Aryadeva in St. Petersburg, which is part of the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana tradition. It will be asked by Alexei Yereev.
Здравствуйте, Ваше Святейшество. 8 строфах для тренировки ума.
In the 8 verses of mind training, Geshe Langre Tangpa says, whenever I'm in the company of others, I regard myself as the lowest among all. Your Holiness, our question is, how to continue this instruction with the divine pride that is needed for tantric practices? So this verse, may I sincerely, wholeheartedly consider others to be supreme. And then in the Tantra, when you are taught that you have to have divine pride of a deity, right in the beginning of Tantric practice, you do meditation on emptiness and dissolve yourself within that meditation on emptiness. And so this body of flesh and blood and bones is dissolved through in your meditation on emptiness. So the appearance of this body made of flesh, blood and bones is gone or dissolved. And then in Tantra there is the categorization of mind or consciousness into the grosser and then the subtler states. And so all these grosser levels of mind are dissolved, and then you are left with this innate, clear light, luminous mind, which arises through meditation once the 3 regions of luminous appearance, increase, and near attainment are dissolved. So you need to understand these things first through study of the teachings on Tantra. And then when you become familiar with them and gain some familiarity with the experience of these dissolution processes and arise, or the manifestation of these clear lights, then when you think about the mere I, this subtle, clear light, luminous mind becomes the basis for the designation of the I and that arises in the form of a deity. And then you will have you should have the divine pride of a deity. So it has its own process in Tantra. So an experienced tantric master shows you or teaches you these, gives these teachings on them, and then through in your meditation you'll be able to you should be able to leave or dissolve these grosser states of mind, and then manifest, make this clear light manifest. And so this the verses of the eight verses of training the mind have to do with the general teaching.
Your Holiness, the next question is from Moscow Buddhist Center Yeshe Korlo. It will be asked by its founding member Ilya Bershin.
Здравствуйте, Ваше Святейшество. В наше время многим трудно следовать таким наставлениям.
So nowadays it is difficult for many of us to follow such instructions as leave your native lands, go to the retreat, and so on. Your Holiness, our question is, how, with so many distractions and temptations that the modern world has to offer, how not to let one's mind be separated from Dharma? Thank you. So, beginning with the Moksha Vows, which teaches us to leave a householder's life and go forth to a renunciant life. But then there are many Tibetan practitioners who did not leave their household life, such as Jiten Marpa Lotsawa, who lived a householder's life. But the main thing here with regard to Dharma is to use our minds such that you do not have any attachment to the holder's life and the possessions and so forth, but your lifestyle can still be a layperson's life. You can still live a layperson's life, like Marpa Lotsawa. So for some, it may be more suitable for them to go forth into a renunciant's life, leaving the householder's life, while others can still live as a layperson, but through their training of mind, perhaps they will be able to go along with the path, with the practice of the Dharma.
Your Holiness, the next question is from the Moscow Buddhist Center, Ganden Tendarlin, which is part of the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. It will be asked by Tatiana Ilina.
Ваше Святейшество, доброе утро.
Good morning. A lot of people are untimely dying now from COVID and other diseases like cancer. When one wants to help disease to obtain good rebirth, apart from asking the lamas for prayers, people want to do something by themselves for the diseased. What could you advise? In our workshop, we make tsatsas for diseased, stupas, various deities and so forth. Please, could you explain how making tsatsa for the diseased helps him or her to purify his or her karmic imprints? We wish you good health and dedicate merits to making these satsa for your long life. Okay, for the sake of the diseased people, if the body is cremated, the remains of the body, the ash, of course there is this tradition of practice of making tsatsas by using them. So you can make tsatsas as memorabilia for the deceased, or so, but it's not necessary to make tatas as such. But you can make tata, of course, with the remains of the deceased person. If that is not, if you can do that, of course, but it's not very important to make tata as such. So the deceased person, by making tata from the ashes, the surviving family members may be reminded of this person and then meditate on bodhicitta and the view of emptiness. So, but at the least, for Tibetans, for example, Tibetans can recite the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, the 6-syllable mantra, like 600,000 times, which is to say 100,000 times the 6 syllables. And when my late mother died, I did recite this mantra 600,000 times. So, by having this, you can dedicate this kind of recitation of the mantra for the deceased person. And as a remembrance of the deceased person, you may have the tata made from their ashes. So that would be good, of course, to do. So that's all. Next, please.
Your Holiness, the next question is from Garchen Jansemhan Center of Drikun Kagyu tradition in Moscow. It will be asked by Andrei Krasov.
Здравствуйте, Ваше Святейшество. Я счастлив задать вопрос от имени нашей самхи.
Your Holiness, the teaching says that we should first rely upon the external guru and then develop our inner guru. If we feel that we have already developed the inner guru, how to understand that we are not trapped by our own conceptualization? How to distinguish our inner guru from mental fabrications? So regarding myself, for example, I visualize the lineage masters of the extensive conduct lineage and think of bodhicitta based on the meditation on love and compassion, and then regarding the profound lineage, the lineage of the profound view, I reflect on dependent origination, emptiness. And then, with regard to the great lineage of the that has come down to through Shantideva and so forth, then I reflect on the extensive path, particularly the exchange of self and equaling, exchanging self and others. So, of course, we have the clear light mind, and we have the imprints of these different positive experiences. And so, on the basis of that, we should meditate on bodhicitta and the view of emptiness. And so, through the with the help of the external gurus, we should remind us that the external gurus should be used as a reminder for us of these qualities of bodhicitta and the view of emptiness. And so, as Shantideva says, I meditate on these lines as well. Which intelligent or sensible person with feel discouraged to ride the horse of bodhicitta, which leads you from bliss to bliss. And then I have a statue of a Buddha, a portrait of a Buddha, and sometimes I have a feeling that the Buddha is actually talking to me, or speaking to me. And Shantideva also says that if you do not exchange your joy and happiness with the suffering of others, leave alone reaching Buddhahood, even in this samsara, you will not have happiness. In your own life, you will not be happy if you remain selfish. So this is very true, what Master Shantideva is saying. So in the world, if you look around in the world today, because of selfish attitudes, thinking only of one's own well-being and welfare, and disregarding others' well-being and welfare, we have all kinds of problems. So these two lines from Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, I recite them daily and reflect on bodhicitta and developing bodhicitta within myself, and also this is a main practice of my main practice daily, and then reminding myself of the qualities of the past masters. I also reflect on emptiness by reciting these lines from Master Nagarjuna's Mulamadhyama Kakarika, which says that whatever is dependent originally is said to be empty, and that is said to be designated, and that is the middle way. And whatever, since there's nothing which is not dependently risen, there's nothing which is not empty, and so forth. And so I reflect on emptiness in that way. Next.
Your Holiness, the next question is from Kalachakra Buddhist Center of Jonan Tradition. It will be asked by Pavel Batyuk.
Ваше Святейшество, как нам в России лучше всего...
What is the best way to practice non-sectarian approach to Rime? What joint rituals and practices would you recommend us to perform? So the Rime term that you have used, are you talking about Rime in the sense of Buddhist being within the Buddhist tradition, being Rime or non-sectarian, or does this word Rime for you cover a larger scope? So in any case, all religious traditions teach how to be kind, have a good heart. So in order to have the intention to work for the benefit of others, the theistic religious practitioners think that everybody is a creation of God. We have Christian practitioners, Christian brothers and sisters who really serve others, who need help in terms of health, care, and also education. And then within the Buddhism, we have the Pali tradition and the Sanskrit tradition. And then within the Sanskrit tradition, for example, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we have those of the Satyanyingma, Gyaluk, Kagyu, and so forth. So all of them may have different rituals, prayers, and so forth, but we have the same practice. All of them come down to the same practice. But sometimes people just superficially understand the teaching that they follow, and then they say, I'm Nyingmapa or Kagyupa, and so forth. But if you really seriously think about these traditions, you have the bodhicitta practice as the foundation. There were There used to be what are known as the 25 pioneers of the Tibetan Buddhist traditions. So all of them practice the combination of Sutra and Tantra. So in that respect, they all are same.
Your Holiness, the next question is from Polina Pakulova, a member of Dripun Gaman Center Foundation, Moscow.
Good morning. May you live a very long life. Nowadays, people are extensively using such notions as secular Buddhism. Some teachers and meditation instructors are saying that it is possible to achieve enlightenment without accepting the existence of past and future lives, a concept for karma, the existence of other realms. Your Holiness, my question is it possible to achieve Buddhahood or liberation if one doesn't accept the concepts above? So with regard to enlightenment, of course, it is something that is taught in Buddhism. To reach Buddhahood, you need to overcome both the obscurations of the mental afflictions as well as cognitive obscurations. So these must be overcome through the application of antidotes and not just prayer. So you need to go through the process of study, reflection, and meditation, develop the understandings or insights through these processes. And then, having done the practice in meditation for many years, you'll be able to see some changes happening within yourself so that you go along the path of preparation, accumulation, preparation, and so forth, as referred by the Heart Sutra mantra. So without having such an understanding of the Dharma, to reflect on, without having any understanding of the past and future lives, suffering of sentient beings, and karma, and the different realms of existence. And even if you say there is possibility for you to attain enlightenment, it's not going to be possible. So it's enlightenment, Buddhahood, cannot happen merely through the blessing of the Buddhas and Lamas and so forth. But you need to apply the teaching within yourself so that you become better and better in terms of attaining the paths and the grounds within yourself. So without thinking about the skillful means or the method and the wisdom aspects of the path, merely through some blessing by a Lama touching their hands on your head, the enlightenment will not happen.
Thank you, Your Holiness. The next question will be asked by Pyotr Dubinin, a member of Patul Rinpoche Buddhist Center in Moscow.
Доброе утро, Ваше Святейшество.
Good morning. In current situation of COVID lockdown, it is very difficult for Buddhist practitioners living in big cities to meet and practice together. Could you please give us advice? How can we maintain a sense of closeness and as an aspiration to practice, as well as strengthen our connection with Dharma and Buddhist teachers? So, of course, it is true that due to the pandemic, there is difficulty of people gathering in big groups. So at such a time, if you consider spiritual master, the scriptures as your spiritual teacher, so of course the teachings of the Buddha are translated into many different languages, and also the exegetical treatises of the Indian masters are in many different languages. So if you can study these texts, it would be good. So regarding myself, for example, most of my teachers have passed away. But today, Madhyamaka Avatara and its auto-commentary by Master Chandrakirti are my teachers. So if you consider these scriptures as your teacher, of course, when your master is alive, it will be it is best to rely on that Lama's words. But if you can also study the Indian master's writings, so that you are able to integrate the teachings within yourself, it will be good. Okay.
Your Holiness, we have 2 more questions.
Where are they?
The next one is, when the pandemic ends, what awaits humanity, and what is the role of Russia in this future world?
So by geographical situation or location, Russia,
that part of the world, very important. And then, as far as Buddhism is concerned, traditionally, many Russian republics traditionally are
Buddhist, practitioners of Buddhism, and particularly many great, excellent masters have come from these regions in the past. So today, the republics, Buddhist republics of the Russian Federation are gaining the interest in the teaching and study of Buddhism. So I always emphasize the study of Buddhism is being very important. So in these Buddhist republics of Russia, Buddhism is not something new, not a new religion, but the traditional religion. And therefore, to preserve it and also to revive the teaching is your responsibility. So it is like keeping your own tradition, heritage. Okay.
Your Holiness, and our last question for today. Some Buddhist teachers say that the ideal of protection of the environment and the idea of bodhicitta are very close. The question is, how can we unite Buddhist practice and actual care for our planet?
Quang sabu chadiores, minyu di jawo chadiores, chanju senda, ani zambuling nalo kuryu di yang sungyap chadi jawo chadiores, cheza dela ani gawaro bachi tanda nambe nyamle da ani zambuling nalo ta kuryu da sungyap chadi 걔라 겨울지 공주 카리 요스티니야 저거 자기 유네는 전주 쌤이다 아니야 코리아 숨겨 간 거야
다 말아서
So for us to follow the Sanskrit tradition, we talk about welfare of all sentient beings, don't we? So the sentient beings within the three realms of existence comes within the, under the purview of our focus of all sentient beings. But in particular, in practical terms, we need to think about the people or this world, or sentient beings in this world, and then particularly the 7 billion people of the planet. So someone who prays for the well-being of all sentient beings, it is imperative for us to take care of, to take a responsibility in the protection of our planet, the environment as well. So the 7 billion people in this world, if we could have a sense of oneness of all human beings, and work for the well-being of these sentient beings, of these human beings, to have a peaceful mind, state of mind, and physically healthy body. I mean, if you think about this, then it's quite natural to have a sense of responsibility for the protection of the environment of the earth.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for your teachings, for answering our questions. Now, I would like to invite Telotu Kurinpoche.
No. Wait.
The honorary representative of Your Holiness to Russia, Mongolia, and the CIS countries, and the
all-encompassing Guru Yoga mind. We have all-encompassing yoga mind yet. Or
we will do our best to read Mahayana Sutra Alankara and contemplate on the teachings Your Holiness has bestowed with us. We thank you for your kindness and attention to the Buddhists of Russia. Your Holiness, the ongoing pandemic continues to affect communities around the world, and as you may know, currently the COVID situation in Russia has worsened in terms of daily newly infected people and those who lost the battle. In the last year and a half or so, we have lost many friends due to COVID-19. Many Buddhists across Russia and other parts of the world continue to recite the mantra of Green Tara Your Holiness has recommended to prevent the spread of this disease. Nevertheless, we request Your Holiness to pray for the deceased, infected, and their family members. Many people across Russia are struggling emotionally, mentally, and financially because of this crisis. Your Holiness, in the end, we would like to thank Geshe Lhagdor for leading the review session for the teachings and the secretaries of the private office, as well as the audio and video section of the private office, and all the translators who for their hard work. Lastly, I would like to express my gratitude to our co-organizers for the last 13 years. Save Tibet Foundation, Rinpoche Baksha Datan, Golden Abode of Buddha Shakyamuni, Administration of the Head Lama of Tuva, and Office of Tibet, Moscow. Your Holiness, we pray for your long life and good health. We also wait impatiently to be reunited with Your Holiness as soon as possible. We are always with you in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, in conclusion, I wish to do the all-encompassing yoga mind. So because it includes both the skillful means and wisdom practice, so it becomes a very comprehensive practice. So as I reflect on these lines from Master Chandrakirti's verse 224 of chapter 6, thus illuminated by the rays of the wisdom's light, the Bodhisattva sees as clearly as a gooseberry in his open palm that the three realms in their entirety are unborn from their very start, and through the force of conventional truth, he journeys to cessation. Through his mind, though his mind may rest continuously in cessation, he also generates compassion for beings bereft of protection. Advancing further, he will also outshine through his wisdom all those born from the Buddha's speech and the middle Buddhas. And like a king of swans soaring ahead of other accomplished swans, with white wings of conventional and ultimate truth spread wide, propelled by the powerful winds of virtue, the Bodhisattva would cruise to the excellent far shore, the ocean equalities of the conquerors. And so, if you remain selfish in your attitude, you will not be happy, because you are living in a human society, which is a social animal, a society of social animals. And so, your own well-being and welfare and benefits are dependent on your society, the community. And so when you extend that community, the whole world becomes your community. So if the whole world is in a good shape, you will also have happiness. So sentient beings, particularly including mainly human beings, if you can think of bringing happiness to them, which has to come through disciplining our mind. The animals, of course, cannot think like us. But with the help of other animals in their group, they can also have peaceful states of mind and have relaxed state of mind. So for us, we do not want suffering. We do not want suffering, but want happiness. So we are all same in that. And therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings, you should think of developing the experience of the Dharma within yourself, so that you will be able to grow these experiences of bodhicitta and so forth, so that you can help others. So now, please meditate on bodhicitta for a while.